All right, guys. So here today we are interviewing one of another legend in sales, marketing, and business development. Once we talk about artificial intelligence, like the point of this, how artificial intelligence, how technology can facilitate, can make salespeople job easier, how artificial intelligence can help you to take strategic decisions. That means salespeople are sending tons of emails a day, every day. And what happens in the return, we hope that someone will answer. Rather using that traditional model, that will be great if there's a technology which will tell us with a X percentage of assurance that these leads are potential, these leads would be converted into how to call it, a final prospect. And so in this context today, I'm going to talk with Mr. Steven, who is the vice president of sales in Vandis INC. He's American, and he has got tons of sales experience in almost in many sectors, especially in technology. So today we are going to learn from Steven. Steven, most welcome to my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be a part, and as I understand, it's a new podcast, so I'm excited to take part and be one of the first people to have a nice discussion with you, and hopefully we can share some good and valuable information that'll be helpful to anyone that sees this. So glad to be a part. Thanks for having me.
Great, Steven. Steven, and upon this, okay, Steven, let's talk about like prospecting. Now, prospecting.
Okay.
And we as a salespeople, we prospecting is our bread and butter. No? We need to prospect every day. But so far, what's happening? Like we do prospect. Once it comes to prospecting, we always focus on the quantity. We fill our funnel, and then we expect that out of these 20, 100, or 50 contacts, someone will materialize. So in this context, what do you think, like, because you are a sales expert and you use artificial intelligence to really understand what are those potential leads and what are not. So I would like to know your views about that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great area to get started because it's one of the first things you do. You start a new sales job, you start with a new company, and what do you need to do? You got to prospect. You got to go out there, and it's really funny. I think of the American term always, prospecting. It used to be what you called the people who dug for gold. You know, back in the 1800s, when everyone was moving out to California, they called them prospecting because they were looking for gold. And
gold rush of California.
The gold rush, yeah, during the gold rush of California. So that's where I think that's where that word comes from. Honestly, is the prospectors who were looking for gold. So I like to always think of it that way, mentally and visually, when doing sales, because you're looking for gold. You're prospecting, looking for the right person, the right people. So just in that same regard as you're looking for gold, there's many different ways to do it, right? So back in the 1800s, you had a shovel and you had a pickaxe. And I would say a good correlation for this in modern day sales would be cold calling. And for a long time, when I first started my career off, cold calling was the thing, right? That's all you had. You pick up the phone and dial, kind of like that movie, The Wolf of Wall Street.
Right.
Have you seen that? Pick up the phone and dial. So
right.
This is how a lot of sales have been done for a really long time. For a really long time, you call, you introduce yourself. The problem is we live in a digital world now, and the problem is this type of prospecting is just as out of date as using a shovel and a pickaxe trying to look for gold. So nowadays we have LiDAR technology, right? They're in the South America. They're exploring the Amazon jungles, and they're seeing all these cities they never knew existed before. And why is that? Because they're using new technology. So in the same exact way with our sales process, we really need to modernize ourselves. And if you had LiDAR looking in the ground, now we have these machines you push over the top of the dirt and you see, oh, there's gold down there. It's that easy. So it's the same thing with sales. You can really build an account-based marketing list. So rather than targeting the whole world, rather than targeting anybody at any level in the company, I just want to get somebody on the phone that'll listen to me.
Right.
You can actually target the decision makers at companies and then you can begin your conversation at the top level rather than having to punch your way to the top and always being, pushed back or told, "Oh, I'll call back next week." And so this is the kind of prospecting that I like to do. Now, when I first got into this, I was using very basic tools. I was using, a few scraping tools, things like this, and I was doing it manually. And now what I've started to do is I've started to break into some really intelligent tools that do so much of the work for you, that it really allows you to do, what used to take me 6 months to do, I can now do in 1 month with these new tools. So that's kind of the position I'm in. So that's a good overview of prospecting, and then I'll let you, if you want to ask more specifics, I can get into some of the tools I use, things like that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So great. And but here's the point, Stephen. Okay, we can understand that point. I think every salesperson understands this point, that if there is some technology which can reduce his his burden on his shoulders, like which can help him to filter the potential leads. But even though why it happens in companies, even in let's say in big companies, even though the model is still traditional, like it's not very well materialized yet. We all know, I would say these days, artificial intelligence is very fashionable term. We say artificial intelligence. I don't know. We don't know exactly what really happens in the depth, but we say artificial intelligence. So according your experience, where is that friction? Why we don't use it? What's the reason behind it?
Well, I think it's it's human nature, honestly. If we're breaking it down to a very simple answer and a broad answer, it's human nature. I mean, humans are very slow to adapt. They're slow to change until they see the evidence, they see the proof. And so a lot of these artificial intelligence companies who have developed apps and who have developed systems and softwares that are doing this work, they're well known, but they're only well known amongst the people who use them. And so, sometimes you have people, like I said, with cold calling, maybe they've been cold calling for 40 years and they don't make an effort to constantly educate themselves. They don't make an effort to constantly be aware of what's the new process. I always like to think of Tiger Woods, the famous professional golfer. He started playing a certain way in the 90s, right? He started playing golf a certain way in the 90s. Well, then he realized that 10 years later in the early 2000s, he realized all the kids who were playing golf now were playing golf so much better than he was. And so he could have continued to play the same way, but he said, you know what, I want to learn what these kids are doing, because I think if I can learn what they're doing, I can still compete, 10, 20 years from now. And so I think that's what happens in sales is we have a process that we like, we have a process we enjoy, we get comfortable with the process, and what we don't think about is it becomes old, it becomes outdated. And so it starts with management. It starts from the top, and from the top down, they really have to think about what can we change, what can we adapt, what can we learn about these new technologies. Because the truth is, once these companies, once they take on and once they adapt to these new tools and these new systems, they see the results immediately. They see the results immediately. For example, there's a company I use, Seamless.ai. And, I like that .ai ending there for the URL because it's artificial intelligence. But I love Seamless because I can type in a couple of search terms. I can hit search. And it pulls the list of all of the possible people with the title I want. So if I want the sales director, the marketing director, the CEO, it pulls that person. It pulls all their contact information that's available anywhere online. It's like a Google search for prospects. That's really what it is. And so I can use a tool like that, and I can pull 1,000 contacts, in one click. I have 1,000 contacts, and now I have a list that I can work on. And instead of calling, the junior business developer, instead of calling someone who's just started out of the company and has no decision-making power whatsoever, I can start at the top. I can start with, I can take those names and I can pull them into a system like the company I work for, Vendysys, and we can run automated email campaigns. We can run automated LinkedIn campaigns. So there's so much of the process that I can automate now. 1,000 phone calls 10 years ago would have taken me, a couple of months, right? A couple of months to get 1,000 phone calls done. now, I can not only message these people one time, but I can message these people 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, and every day I can add a new 1,000 that I'm contacting. So if your goal is to grow, and if your goal is to grow aggressively, and if you're a new startup, you're a new company, you want to grow,
right,
you absolutely need to be using these types of tools and be breaking into new markets as often as possible.
right. But here's the point. Maybe I would say I'm a little bit how to say it, more cautious about this point, because the time we are talking about AI, the time we are talking about mass email campaign and sending, you just said like sending a message 4 times to a person. What I see, then I put you a practical example and how I react. Then maybe you'll answer what I think. But sometimes what have the time we are using AI to just message people in terms of quantity several times, maybe name is there. It's not, I don't know, it's not very much welcomed by the customer, because I tell you, in my inbox, there are hundreds of email,
Yep.
and I don't read them, even though Steven, some of the emails start by my name, hey Bob, something like this. Maybe I don't know, maybe this artificial intelligence maybe can take your name from somewhere and can paste somewhere. But even though it's for me, it doesn't seem to me very effective, because as I said, if I just open my Gmail now, there are more than thousands email, and I don't want to read even these emails. It stress me. Tomorrow, if I cancel these email, again thousands will come. How do you see this how to see this how to call it this rejection from client side to see these many automated email? Maybe they are well customized in coming years.
And that's the difference. And when you move to artificial intelligence, there's another part of training that really has to take place, and that part is, are you bringing value? Are you introducing a new concept that's helpful, or are you just throwing up your information? There's a really I'll try and send you his name after the call. I can't remember his name, but there's a guy I really like to watch and really like to follow on YouTube who does sales instructional calls and videos, and he has personal clients, things like this. But what he really talks about is, as salespeople, you don't need to be a salesperson. You need to be a doctor, and he uses this concept a lot. And so he tries to even come up with imagine you're at the doctor's office, somebody walks in, a patient walks in, you're the doctor, and you say, hey, I've got this great product, it's great, this Xanax, it's gonna be perfect for you, it's gonna help you feel better, and everything. You haven't even asked them what their problem is. Hey, what are you doing here today? What's the problem? So as salespeople, a lot of times I think our emails are just throwing up everything. Look at this, look at me, look at my video, look at my website, and that's not that's spam. People don't want that. People don't want things like that. What people really enjoy is a genuine conversation. And I know it sounds a little bit like a contradiction to be using automation versus a genuine conversation. But the thing is, we're not trying to have a 100% complete conversation that's done by AI. What we're trying to do is just get people's attention with value. And once we have their attention, then we take over manually. So we're still, because you still want to be human, you still want to be personable, and you still, I think for a long time to come, humans are still going to be able to make better decisions and have better understandings in a live conversation than AI ever will, or at least for a long time, maybe 100, 200 years. So that's why we have salespeople. If it could all be done by robots, we just have everything done by robots. But I think the most important thing is to focus on that introduction, finding a value, bringing a value, asking genuine questions. Even if you're doing it in an automated way, if you're asking genuine questions, I think you can create a good response. But there's different people respond to different things. So that's why I never try and focus on just one avenue. If it's email, you don't check your email, right? But you and I met via LinkedIn. You know, that's how we met, and we met using my tool. You know, so even though you just said you hate email, it stresses you, you've got thousands. If you delete them, you'll get thousands more. If I had emailed you, you and I would never have met. We'd never be talking. But because we met via LinkedIn, and because I approached you in a professional and a way that could bring value to both of us, now we're here talking. So I think you have to also consider that there's different personality types and different people prefer different ways, you know. So you got to be able to adapt to the outreach that works best for each person, each company.
Yeah, this is interesting point, Steven. Okay, I understand what you are saying, that we can use like AI to how to call it, to reduce that, how to call it, that non-productive task, the task which can be automated. But when it comes to real face-to-face connection, then we need to remove AI from there. We need to be, we need to present as a person. I understand that. But
absolutely.
Correct. But is there some AI tool which can help us from the beginning to I would say to find potential people interested in technology from the beginning? I'm saying, I don't know if I made my question clear from the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, from the beginning, it depends on each company. You know, so I'll say, let's say you're a salesperson and you really need to speak to the CTO of a company. Let's say you're working in technology, you're working in software. You have a system that's going to help the CTO out a lot. Maybe it's a financial system. Maybe you need to speak to the CFO. Typically, every salesperson already knows more or less who the decision maker is at the company. Now, maybe it's going to take 3, 4, 5 people at the company before they make a decision to move forward. Maybe the CEO needs to get involved. You know, you never know who all needs to be involved, but more or less, you know, at least one title that you need to approach. So in this way, you know, like the tool I mentioned earlier, Seamless, you know, you can search by title. And this is something that I think is really revolutionary because, you know, 10 years ago in the past, if I wanted to speak to the CFO, I would have to search on Google or something, you know, for companies in this area. And then I'd have to go to their website and I have to search who's the CFO, and I'd have to find it. And, you know, and so like it used to take, you know, 5, 10, 15 minutes to find the right person and their email address. Now with Seamless, I can say, hey, you know what, in San Francisco, I want to speak to the CFOs of companies who have a revenue turnover of more than 10 million US dollars. And I can click a search and I get a list of all of them, their emails, their office phones, sometimes their cell phones, if it's public information on you know, online. So using this tool, that's a fantastic start, because this is taking something that used to take 10 or 15 minutes per person and shortening it to one search that'll give you 1,000 results. So you're literally saving weeks and weeks of work every search you do, and you can do 10 searches, 20 searches a day. So tools like that, I think, are just incredibly helpful for the start, right? Like you're saying, at the very, very beginning, gathering the information. This is beautiful. Even if you want to cold call, this is a great way to gather your data and then start cold calling those people. But if you're talking about just gathering information from the beginning, that's what I would strongly recommend. Starting there.
And this tool, this website is a paid, is it under paid services or is it free?
It is. So Seamless is a paid website. It's a paid service. You know, I would say it's a premium service. I would say it's something, but you know, in sales and as sales directors, as people, you know, who are making monetary decisions, what you have to decide is, if I invest, you know, $100 bucks, you know, whether it's a LinkedIn premium account, whether it's a CRM, whether it's, you know, we have to have tools. It's like if you want to go, you know, from London to India. Okay, well, sure, maybe you could take a boat and then walk and then ride a horse. Sure, you could do it that way, but why not just buy a plane ticket? So, you know, with our salespeople, I think investing in the right salespeople should never be a second thought. It should be the first thing you think of, is if I give this person all the tools they need to succeed, they're going to be able to do it. So this is a premium tool, just like LinkedIn, just like Salesforce or anything like that. But I think it's a tool where, hey, you're investing $100 a month in your person.
It's worthwhile.
But it's going to bring in, if it's bringing in thousands of dollars of results, for thousands of euros or pounds of results, I mean, that's something that justifies the investment.
Right.
So I feel that way about these premium tools. You know, typically you can find some type of free version out there. There's another tool that I like that's free. It's called Hunter.io. And that's a company and that's a website that I enjoy using. It has a couple of features, especially websites. You know, you can pull up a website and click on the Hunter.io Google extension, and it'll show you all of the emails within that website. So you don't have to dig, you know, page to page and things like that. So there's a lot of nice tools out there, from free all the way to premium. But like I said, it's like going from London to India. Sure, you can make it on a boat and a horse and a car, but wouldn't you rather fly? You know, so you just have to decide what kind of company and what kind of where you want to put your investment dollars.
So the website is seamless.com, correct? Seamless.
No, so the seamless.ai is the premium website, and the free website, Hunter.io.
Hunter.io free. Okay. So I would say, Steven, you give very interesting example, like to go from London to India. Yes, it's and you take airplane, but metaphorically speaking, maybe in coming years, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, there will be ultrasonic plane which will fly from Los Angeles to Japan in 1 hour. And
Tesla.
SpaceX. Virgin Atlantic, Richard Branson is working on that. Yes, that was listening his talk in one of the podcasts. So I would say in the same way, like AI is now AI is the child. It's growing. It's improving day by day.
Yeah. It's in its infancy for sure, but I wouldn't say it's not valuable. I would say AI in its infancy is immensely more valuable than manual labor, mature manual labor tools. You know, and the other thing is, I think AI is not going to grow at the same rate that manual tools. You know, look at all of human society. We don't grow at the same rate we did in the 1800s or the 1900s. You know, now we have, terabyte micro SD cards, whereas just 10, 15 years ago, that was thought to be impossible. So it's the same with AI. I think you're going to see exponential growth year over year. There's always going to be improvement. Every 5 years, there's going to be a 200, 300% improvement from what it was 5 years prior. So with AI, I think you're really going to see some very rapid growth and some very interesting tools that continue to develop. And that's why, like I said earlier, the education is so important. Because if you're not keeping yourself up to date, you know, every day, every month, who's using what tools, what can I research, what can I get a better understanding of? So that's where I think I see the value, and that's why I see, you know, AI continuing to grow.
Right. So, Steven, like something you are saying something very, 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 very interesting, and I give you I put a very practical example about this. You know, okay, what happens? I met you through LinkedIn. I talked to you, and during your talk, I learned many things. Like I heard about LinkedIn Navigator, but I never use it. Thereafter, once I talked with you, then I signed for premium account for 1 month trial, and I like it. It's going well. I like it, and it's going well. And so just come back to education part. Like I met you, I'm interested, and through your experience, I knew this tool, and this is also one of the methods to upgrade our skills.
Absolutely.
I believe. Okay.
Absolutely.
In this regard, what advice you would like to give to our sales people, those who, outside, practically speaking, everyone wants growth. All salespeople wants to make money. All salespeople wants to have competitive edge in their domain. But when it comes to education, I'll say if you ask salespeople, everyone would say, yes, I want to improve. But when it comes to put things in action, it doesn't work. It doesn't. Like nobody takes these actions. So what advice you would like to give us in order to update ourselves about latest technology, about AI, which can really help us to do our job better, Steven.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, yeah, you have my mind racing, so I hope I can remember everything I'm thinking. But yeah, so I'll start with physics. So in physics, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Correct.
I think it's 100% true in every portion of our lives, and especially in sales. If you're not taking action every day, you're not going to have reactions. If you're not reaching out every day, you're not going to have people reaching out to you.
Right.
One of the greatest ways you can increase, there's a cliche saying, right? Increase your network so that you can increase your net worth, right? Because we sell to people that we know. We sell to people that we have relationships with.
Outside, that's more American way of saying things. Your
right.
Network is your net worth. Correct. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a very cliche American saying, but there's a lot of truth to it because just like you said, you and I meet and now you become aware of a new tool. Right. There's another saying that I really enjoy, and it's if the world was a book, where you were born is just one page, and that's referring to travel. But, if you get around and you see other countries, you see how things are done differently. And so I think it's true with our sales network as well. I think a book of business is so important to build. If you're 18, you're 19, you're 22, start building a book of business. If you're 50 and you've never done it, start building a book of business. That's one of the most important things you can do. LinkedIn is your digital book of business. LinkedIn is your way to create relationships, to have phone calls, and to learn and gather information. So, I mean, in my position with my company, I'm very lucky because, I mean, I have spoken to people all over the world. I've spoken to people in China, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Japan, all over Africa. I've spoken to people, in every country in Europe, and spoken to people in South America and North America. So I really feel like I've spoken to people from almost all over the world, and it gives you such a unique perspective because the truth is the world is not equal in technology. The world, internet speeds are not equal all over the world. Right. Education is not equal all over the world. And so you may think that you're doing the most important and most newest, you may think you're using the newest tools and you're doing everything in the newest method, and you may be 50 years behind what they're doing in Estonia. You may be 50 years behind what they're doing in Norway. So it's really important to gather data from every contact you speak with, and that's a great way to use LinkedIn as well. Is to have short chats.
Right.
To say, hey Bob, I see you work over in Italy. I see you're in the Lombardia area. I'd love to have a call with you. Let's share some information. Let's share a chat and let's learn about each other. What are you doing for business? What am I doing for business? And in this way we grow. And so there's people you'll speak to that are using tools you've never heard of. And there's people you'll be speaking to that are using tools that you heard of 10, 15 years ago, and it's old and out of date. Right. But by using your network and by communicating with your network, by causing actions and reactions to take place, I think you can really, really educate yourself and become aware, probably better than a Google search would do, right? Because a Google search, you're just going to get an article in your own language. Right. You search in your own language. How do I use the best tools? Well, if you search in Italian, you're going to get an Italian response. You search in Spanish, you're going to Spanish response. Right. German, same thing. So I think speaking to people from those countries, you actually get a really unadulterated answer. You get a really pure answer of what they're using, what tools they use, what works, what doesn't work, what they like. So this is something that we should definitely invest, I would say, a large portion of our time as salespeople in is, what are you doing every day? Well, if you're not spending half your day talking on the phone to people, you're not doing sales. Half the day you should be on the phone, communicating, learning, sharing your tools, taking meetings. So, this is something that is really crucial. And a lot of times people want to just sit back and they want to only do emails or only do messages, and it's like you're trying to do digital sales. It's like you're trying to be modern, but it's like being lazy. Because you can't just email, you can't just message. You also have to have some video calls. You also have to have some face to face. And luckily, we live in a time where we can have Zoom calls, we can have Google Hangouts and meetings, Microsoft Teams. we can have these meetings and really be able to communicate face to face and see each other and
Stephen,
have a good understanding.
Just double down this point. It's really getting very, very interesting for me, and I think for all of my sales friends. I think I truly believe, like, salespeople in our case, we lack process. And what does process mean? That correct me if I'm wrong. Process means we say, okay, we are in sales, so we are busy every time. Maybe we are making presentation. Maybe we are going for coffee. We are talking with friends. But it's everything is done in most random way. But if I believe if we follow a process means if I say, hey, listen, Bob, you are a sales guy every day, 1 hour, just dedicate in research.
Right.
Just research, and in that research, find out who are those people with whom you wanna talk.
Right.
And in due course of time, it will get compounded. Because if I go just randomly, maybe what happens, maybe I talk with 10 people and maybe sometimes no one is interested, just one is interested, and what will happen, my confidence will drop down. But if I dedicate 1 hour researching who is the guy, what, in which sector, in which technology, where I want to go in the future, and then I target people, maybe we would be more productive.
Yeah, I think exactly. I think you have to be doing research. Now, some companies don't want you to be doing research on their time, and I understand that. So, it's difficult. It's difficult because, Americans, we work too much, right? We work way too much. But I think some of the greatest results come from the people who work harder than everyone else. And so if you're getting into sales to say, like, I want to do my 9 to 5, my 9 to 6, and that's good, I don't think you should get into sales. Sales is about being everything to everyone at any time. If you want to take a sales call on a Saturday or Sunday, perfect. Let's have a call. It's about how bad do you want it. It's about how bad do you want it and how bad do you want to see yourself succeed. So I think it is important that you mentioned structure. I think it is really important to have a structure. I think it is really important to have portions of your calendar that are blocked off specifically for follow-up, specifically for research, if your company will allow that, but it's also important not to take these times and use them as an excuse not to get started with your daily work. Sometimes during this COVID, right? During COVID, it's, oh man, every day, super mundane, not a lot of reactions, not a lot of responses. Psychologically, like you said, you talked about confidence. Confidence is really important in sales. Confidence is huge. So psychologically, you need to be there. You need to come ready to go every single day. And I often notice with myself, I've had some time. I've had 10, 11 years. So I can bring it any time of the day anybody wants to have it brought. But I noticed that I think I'm my sharpest and I think I'm my best and my most precise in the morning. So I really think, 8 to 12, 8 to 1, 8 to 2, if you can really hammer out a lot of meetings and calls and your follow-ups and all of that at that point during your day, I think you're going to see a lot of great results. And then I would save the research and some of the, follow-up number 2, number 3, number 4. I would save some of these mundane tasks for the afternoon. I would come into work, come into your office, even if it's your home office, I'd come in ready to go, fired up and bring it. But in the afternoon, it makes sense. The day's slowing down a bit. Okay, now let's take some time to do some research, especially at the end of your day, even if it's at your house, 8, 9, 10 in the evening. Especially your next day should already be planned. And can you repeat this same thing? It's really very interesting what you are saying. Yeah. Can you repeat this? Can you explain it again? Yeah. At the end of your day, so if it's your work day at your office or if it's 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night at your house, your next day should be planned. It's very easy to do this if you have a CRM service. I really like Pipedrive. Different people at my company use Salesforce as well. There's a few interesting CRM tools out there. A lot of people like HubSpot. I don't really care for HubSpot, but it does have a lot of functionality. But with these CRMs, it's very easy to have your activities planned for the next day. You know, if you talk to somebody, let's say today's Thursday. If I talk to somebody today, Thursday, and they say, hey, follow up with me in a week. Boom. I put it on my pipe drive. It's in my activities. It's on my agenda for next Thursday. You know, next Thursday, 2nd of July, I know I need to talk with someone that day. It's on my calendar. I can even select the time. You know, is it 9 in the morning, 8 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon? So I put those follow-ups in my calendar, in my schedule. And this allows me to stay very organized and very focused, because every evening I can look at my calendar. I can say, what do I have? You know, what do I have tomorrow? Okay, tomorrow I have, 4 meetings, 5 meetings, 7 meetings, and 20 follow-ups.
Correct.
So now I know what I need to achieve that day.
Correct.
At a minimum. At a minimum. That's if I did nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I have planned already. Plus, I need to do some new things so that I have some new things for the next week, right? Because if you're not doing something new every single day, if you're not adding new things to your schedule for next week, then you're going to get to next week and have nothing.
Correct.
So it's really important to be planning always as a salesperson for the next conversation, the next steps. And it's really important too to try and secure that during the phone call. If you're having a video call, video meeting, you get to the end of that meeting, always bring up next steps. Say, hey, this was a great call. Thanks for your time. As far as next steps go, when should we speak again? And put it in your calendar straight away. Don't write it on your piece of paper and then forget about it. Put it in your calendar straight away. And that's really going to help keep you organized and keep your agenda, scheduled and structured.
Right.
And I believe, Steven, that because in sales is very unpredictable job. Like today, we do prospecting, and probably the result would come after a few months, and it happens always. I think what you are saying, if we plan our day, if we plan one day in advance, and every day we do that, we follow the strict plan, I believe it also gives a good amount of self-satisfaction in the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Even though
Absolutely.
if nothing has been materialized.
Right. Because we're in this for the long game. We're not selling sandwiches at the supermarket, right? Most of us are not selling sandwiches at the supermarket where somebody comes in, you say, hey, it's a good sandwich. They say, great, I'll take it. Let's go. We're not doing one-day sales. And a lot of times that can be a hang-up. Salespeople come into the day and they think, oh, I've got to make, 1 sale, 5 sales, 10 sales today. I don't believe sales are ever done in the first phone call or the first meeting unless there's been an insane amount of value and an insane amount of, most people need a week to think about it. Most people want to compare. Most people want to talk about it. I've got clients that I've closed in 2 weeks, and then clients that it's taken me 9 months to close, and it's the same product. So even if a product typical sales cycle is 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, that doesn't mean every client's going to close within that time frame. And especially in times like COVID, speaking to people in March, that we're going to be closing, going to be starting in April, and all of a sudden their budgets are frozen. So as salespeople, it can be a big blow to the confidence. It can be tough, but I think you have to be self-aware and think about, is this my fault, or is this a global pandemic that we can't control? If you can't control it, don't let it affect your confidence. Continue to come every day, continue to bring your best every day, and keep looking forward to when we return to normal. So, now we're in June, we're almost in July, and companies are starting to spend again. Companies are starting to move again. So now's the time where those companies you talk to in March and April and May, and June, now they're ready to begin, and continue. So that's kind of the mindset that I take, and that I would encourage anyone else to take is, evaluate yourself, be self-aware, but don't come ready to sell, and if you don't sell in your first phone call, what a failure. You got to build a relationship, and that's why I said your network is your net worth. So the more you speak to someone, the more you communicate with them, the better relationship you have, the more they're going to trust you to buy from you.
And Stephen, let's talk a little bit about the confidence. Now, you use this word 2-3 times, and I strongly believe sales is the confidence game. But what? Because the time we are confident, the time we like it's. I've seen several times. The time I'm very confident in my presentation with client, the time I have good how do you call it, body language. The time I know what I'm speaking. sometimes I believe the client is not that much in the beginning. First 5 minutes of presentation, the client is not that much interested in the content, what you are saying, but how you are saying it. Is it?
Yeah.
Is it correct? And the clients sometimes look the expression on your face, just validating that are you convinced what you are saying, or just or you are saying it for the sake of saying.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now the best way, the best way to eliminate this is don't sell something you don't believe in. You know, and a lot of times people try and sell something they don't believe in, not because they think it's a bad product. They don't believe in it because they don't know it well enough. And so if you're starting to work for a new company, you're starting to sell a new product or a new service at your existing company, you should be the person at the company who knows it the best. You should know absolutely everything it can do, everything it can't do, how it works. And you should bring this level of truth and honesty to your conversation. So a lot of times I think our body language can be telling if we're trying to be dishonest, you know, and you know, maybe you make one sale because you were dishonest, but soon they find out you were being dishonest, and now you don't have them as a client now or ever again. You know, and that's not building a book of business, and that's not good character, and that's not how you should be as a salesman either. You know, so I think being honest with clients, you're going to gain a lot more respect. So if they say, "Hey, can your tool do this?" and you say, "You know what? No, it can't. But let me talk to my developers because maybe we can make it do that for you. So let me see if I can, you know, bring a good, honest answer." And I think people will respect you for it much better than if you say, "Oh yeah, we can do that," and then try and fix it afterwards and find out from your developers it's not possible. So I think being honest helps a lot. But body language, if you already know everything your product can do, you're going to be so much more confident when you're talking with the person because they're going to ask you a question and you're not going to have to think, how do I answer this? You're just going to be able to answer it. So I think that plays a big role in body language and a big role in the way that we communicate. Is we know if what we're selling is valuable or not. So you know, salespeople who are working at companies, maybe you're putting in your first years as a business development rep, and you know that's a tough time. But if you're an account executive or you're a sales executive, you're a VP, you're a director, and you don't believe in your product, you shouldn't be working at that company. You should find another company. There's too many more valuable companies in the world out there that you can be doing something positive than to be working for somebody who's selling snake oil, is the expression we use in the US. But you know, like you don't want to be selling a gimmicky product that's not bringing value to your client.
Right. And Stephen, I really appreciated what you are saying and what you do. I give you because I observe a thing at a thorough level. It as I don't know as a sting. I put a small example. The first time when you said just now you said if there is a product and maybe client asks some question and maybe you don't know that feature, it's there or it's not there. Sometimes what happens, most of the sales people will shoot in dark and they will try to convince to client that it's possible. Maybe then they will fabricate the answer and client can understand it. He's not stupid. I give a small example about what you are saying is it's much better to say, I don't know, let me ask. And then if it's then I get back to you. And you did that because first time when I talked to you, I asked you whether your services are cloud-based or not. Are you on Microsoft Azure? And you said, Bob, I don't know. I need to ask. And that was really, I thought about it. Once after that discussion, I thought about it. And I really I liked it. I'm not saying just to impress you, but I liked it. I like this honesty, what you are saying, and this is very much true. And other point, Stephen, what about one, confidence comes through what you are selling. You trust in your product and then you propose to client. But what about the human factor? Sometimes there is how to call it, how can we say it, hierarchical imbalance. Can we say maybe you are a sales
Right.
rep, you talk with C level executive. There's always that level. And there's always human psychology says we are human being. We feel a little bit how to call it, a little bit
intimidated.
Yeah, intimidated. Not the point is we want to respect him as much as possible because we need him, but at the same time he doesn't care whether you respect him or not. So how do you balance this factor, this role imbalancing, I would say?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a great point. I'll tell you what I do, and I'm not going to say that I'm the right person to give this answer, because I'm sure there might be times where you need to read the room, read the situation, and know how you should behave.
Right.
But from what I learned from my studying, from the guy I mentioned earlier that I like to follow on YouTube that does sales advice,
right.
I always think it's better if you ignore roles and you speak to each other as one human to another, because his role in his company and your role in your company, they have nothing to do. You're not inside of their hierarchical structure, and they're not inside of yours.
Right.
So I think it's always better to treat and speak to everyone as an equal, or at the highest level of sales, to speak to them as a consultant. So to speak to them like as a subject that you're an expert on, and you want to explain to them how it could help their business.
Right.
So I would never say to be disrespectful, not at all. But you definitely can't be timid. You can't be shy. You can't lack confidence because someone else is a CEO at a company. You're going to speak to CEOs. If you're in sales, if you're in software sales, if you're in any kind of sales, machine sales, you're going to speak to some CEOs. And as a salesperson, it shouldn't intimidate you. It should be something that you're ready to do, because that means you're that much close. If you're speaking to the CEO, you're pretty close to closing your deal. So it should be an exciting time. It should be an exciting time, and you should be motivated to bring your best effort and your best attitude. So, in these times, you just got to be confident, and you need to treat the person as an equal. So I wouldn't treat them as your dad or your grandpa. Treat them as they work at the same company you do, and you're at the same level. And I would say that's the way I approach it. That's the way I've been trained to approach it. And I would say that's the best advice I could give to salespeople.
Right.
Approach it like an equal, and I think they'll respect you more for it, because all day long CEOs have everybody, oh yes sir, I'm about to bring you this paper, and okay, right away sir. And so they're used to everybody doing everything they say, saying yes to everything they say. So if somebody, that's a CEO, and you're having a conversation with them, and they bring up a topic that's awful. Let's say in my case, somebody said, oh, cold calling is the best thing you can do for sales. I wouldn't say, oh yeah, sure it is. No, because that's dishonest with my beliefs.
Right.
So I would say, actually, I don't think it is. Have you checked out independent research done all over the world that shows that cold calling is not working? I would say this. I would say, and they're going to respect you for it, because you're bringing an honesty to them. You're letting them know, hey, maybe you haven't educated yourself in a while on the new tools and the way the world is now with the digital age. But I think you should actually look into these tools, because I guarantee you, if you test this for 1 month, my product versus your cold calling, I'm going to bring you more leads. I guarantee it. So, having the ability and the strength to tell the person, no, you're wrong. I don't believe you're right. I believe you're wrong. That you need to see them as an equal to be able to do that. Because if it's, if it's your boss, if it's your boss at a company, you got to be really good friends to be, hey boss, you're wrong. So
right.
If you approach it as equals, I think you're going to have the best results.
Awesome stuff. Steven, assume that you are 85 years old. You have everything. You got everything. You are happy. You are retired, enjoying your life. What one advice you would like to give salespeople to be better in sales? Just one core advice.
One core advice. I mean, I would say that the best thing that I have noticed in my career is sell something that you believe in. If I could give one advice, I would say that. I would say sell something you believe in, because I think that is one of those things you said, like you notice things without, it's like on a subconscious level, right? You notice it, you think about it after the call. So, if you're communicating with someone that really is passionate about what they're selling, they really believe in what they're selling, and they really know that it can help you make a difference in your company, in your project, whatever it might be, they speak in a different way than somebody who's introducing a product that they don't really care for, right?
Right.
So, you know, the best advice I could give you is if you're working as a, you know, a BDR or an SDR at a company that's selling some product you don't care about, I wouldn't try and move up and becoming account executive and sales director at that company because you don't care about it. So you're gonna do a bad job. You should wake up every day excited at the opportunities you have. You should wake up every day excited at the people you're gonna speak with. And if you're not selling with passion, if you're not excited about what you're doing, then you should change. You should look for something else. And that's really the best advice I can give because, you know, maybe a part B to that would be sell things that give you the opportunity to make unlimited earnings each month, you know, as well. A lot of times people get locked into companies where maybe they're on a salary with no commission and they're selling millions of euros of products. And they're not finding a reward for that. So I would always make sure you're have a contract structure where you have the ability to earn based on your performance as well as a base salary, right? Have some security, but you know, have something that motivates you. You know, if you don't get any rewards out of selling 10,000 euros versus 10 million euros, well, then you're always going to sell 10,000 euros. So find companies that say, hey, you did a 10 million euro sale. Here's 5%. Here's 3%. Here's 10%, you know, good job. So if you find companies like that to work for, you're going to feel excited and motivated every day because you know the potential out there of what you can achieve.
Great. Awesome stuff. Any book or YouTube channel or anything you would like to recommend to our salespeople to read?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the YouTube guy, I've mentioned him twice in the call, so I definitely want to send him to you. Maybe after the recording, you can put it in the YouTube description, because I cannot remember his name. A book that I would recommend. It's actually not a sales book. I have, you know, a few sales books I like, but a book that I would recommend is actually an old book, and it's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and it's such an old book that it's free to download. You can get it on archive.org or any other PDF book website. But yeah, I would strongly recommend this book. It sounds like a 1990s or 2000s get rich quick book, but it's not. What it is Napoleon Hill went around and he interviewed all of these pioneers of wealth and industry and enterprise in the United States. So Henry Ford, you know, the Rockefellers. I mean, he went around and he interviewed the creators and founders of U.S. Steel. And, you know, so he went and interviewed them. And what made you become wealthy? What made you become successful? And that's what this book is about. And, you know, I don't want to spoil it, but the answer is passion. That's the answer. You know, the answer is all of these people, they refused to take no for an answer. And they pursued what they thought was possible with passion. So that would be a book I would highly recommend for everyone to read.
And Stephen, this book, what you said, Think and Grow Rich. Like, did you read this book and after reading this book, did you find some changes in your thinking process? Or my question is this: if you read this book, did you manage to put those rules in action in your daily life? This is what I want to know a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he actually has a portion in the book about halfway through, maybe 3/4 of the way through. He has a portion in the book where he tells you, write these things down. And he gives you a list of about 10 things to write down. And he says, say these things to yourself every day. Say it until you believe it. And, you know, when someone commissioned him to write this book, the person who said, I want you to write this book, it was the richest person in the world at the time. And he said, I want you to go around. I want you to interview all these friends. I'll give you letters of introduction to make sure you get the interviews. I want you to interview all of them because a book needs to be written about this time in U.S. history. And so, but he said, one condition. He said, you have to believe that you're going to become more successful than me. And the guy said, more successful than you, you're the richest guy in the world. That's not possible. And he said, you have to believe it. He said, I want you to say to yourself in the mirror every single day for 30 days, I'm going to be more successful than that guy. And so he didn't become more wealthy than that guy, but his book was one of the best sold books for like 20 years or something, you know. So he did find quite a lot of success in that book and quite a lot of fame and success. And people still talk about him in that book today. So he did achieve greatness. He did achieve greatness, but he had to believe it first. And I think that's kind of the lesson in the book is you have to believe it.
Correct.
You have to be passionate about it.
Correct.
And that's when you'll see yourself succeed.
Oh, great. I like your approach, a very pragmatic approach, Stephen. And okay, awesome conversation. Stephen, where can we find about yourself, like about your services? If we need your services, how can we approach you, your blog, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, a little bit about yourself? Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's linkedin.com/Steven-Jarrod. The Steven's EVEN. And the Jarrod is JARROD. So you can find me on LinkedIn there. I also have an Instagram account. I like to take pictures from my travels, and I enjoy that. So you can find me there. It's Instagram.com/XBShooter. So it's a fun thing. You know, I've got pictures from around Europe and around Italy and different places, and it's a nice hobby. So that would be the easiest place to find me. But if you're looking for services, absolutely. Right. You can find me on LinkedIn. Let's, add me. Let's get in the network and let's have a conversation.
Great, Stephen. Thank you very much for your time. It was a great experience to talk with you. Thank you. Thank you once again.